everybody. It's Anna here, and today is the new moon. I think I've missed the last couple new moons, so this is the first one we've had in a little while. Yeah, we're getting close to the end of the year. I think we maybe have one new moon left before we're into 2025. So let me know if you can hear me okay. And hi, Bonzo. So it's good to see you guys here. Yeah, we're getting ready for the Beaver moon. And I looked it up online. And I also have like a little, a journal I use, a little moon journal. Oh, it's right here. The moon journal. And it talks a little bit about the different kinds of moons and what they're there for. So the Beaver moon, the way this journal suggests, and it kind of makes sense to me, it invites us to get rid of detritus, right? We're cleaning things out because we're getting ready for the winter months, right? So hi, Jenny. So I thought we would, I thought about, so I kind of, yes, there's this sort of traditional understanding of the Beaver moon, but I like to translate things into my own head in a way that makes sense. And so I think about beavers, right? And what beavers do. And basically beavers, they chew on wood, they take wood and they make dams. That's what I know about beavers. That's about all I know about beavers is there's flowing streams of water and they build dams and kind of create reservoirs, right? They create, just like humans will create reservoirs in order to save resource, or humans might use it to create, like electricity, that kind of thing. So I thought about, let's say that the full moon is about creating the reservoirs that are going to kind of hold our resource and make it available to us in the winter months when things are kind of dark and there's not much light, right? We're getting ready. We're kind of gathering our resources. So I thought, what would be a good activity or a good focus for the new moon, getting ready for the full moon? And it occurred to me that maybe we could focus our tarot spread on freeing up flow. So like if we're gonna build a dam in 2 weeks, we want to get the flow up. So what are the things that are slowing down our flow? And what are the things that we need to flow in order to really feel in our highest energy and our highest possibility? Hi, Bioflower. So in just a minute, I've got my cards ready. I'm going to pull a 3-card spread. And if you want to get your cards ready, if you've got your tarot deck with you and you want to pull a spread, we can talk about your spread as well. But I wanted to focus on three questions. The first one being, what is blocking the flow of our blessing? Like, are there kind of things that where we're resisting blessing, right? The second question would be, how can we free up the flow of blessing? That's a better way to name the question. The second question would be, how can we free up the flow of our challenge? So this occurred to me this morning because my husband was talking about something in his church. He's a minister, and he was talking about how he felt bad because this person had gone with him into kind of a challenge point. And I said, well, it's good to go into challenge points because when you walk into the challenge, even if it causes discomfort or pain, it gives you access to something. So I realized that we have a natural kind of instinct to avoid challenge and to avoid pain, right? I mean, that makes sense that we would do that. So in order for us to counter that, we have to make a deliberate intention to sort of walk our minds into a challenge. So, but challenge is where expansion is available too. So we've got blessing and we've got challenge. We want to make sure the flow is open to both. Oh my gosh, my nose is itching like crazy. Hi, Ari. I'm glad you're here too. So open the flow to blessing, open the flow to challenge. And the third question I would want to ask is, what is the inspiration? What is the flow that results from that? So we're going to open up to more blessing and more challenge. Kind of how does that cohere together into maybe what we're going to be reserving, building a reservoir for in 2 weeks with the full moon, with the Beaver moon. So that's what I thought we might do today. Also, just so you know, I'm not great at always catching all of the messages. I try to. Last time we met, I think I got really fast and I probably didn't do a very great job of keeping track of everybody. So I'm a one person show. I don't have a moderator or anything. So anyway, I will do my best to keep up. And if I don't, offer me grace, please. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my cards, my spread. And if you don't have your tarot deck and you want to use my spread, you can see how maybe it applies to your life as well. You know, how I pull the tarot story. It's kind of a general story, right? And a lot of people feel like it really applies to them. So maybe it'll apply to you. Or if you want to pull your own spread, you can. And if you want to share it here, you know, I'll do my best to sort of to offer my perspective on what your cards might be saying. So first question is, how can we release the flow of blessing? Okay. Oh, Bonzo's already done his. He's already moved on. I'll pull mine out first, and I'll get to you, Bonzo. Okay. How do we open the flow of blessing? How do we open the flow of challenge? And what is the inspirational flow that comes with that combined releasing of flow? So, how do we open blessing? Queen of Swords reversed. Okay, this is good. I think this is good for me because the Queen of Swords, the Queen is the expansive principle of the court cards. Swords are about the mind. So this is the Queen of the mind. And you can see in this image, she's got her sword raised, right? She is the queen that I think of as being she's very helpful, but it's a very sharp help. Like basically she cuts us free from old stuff, right? Old things that belong to us. Like she's the surgeon, I would say, of the tarot. So she identifies what doesn't belong and she gets rid of it, the tools that don't match. So this is when she's being helpful. But the reversal can sometimes suggest that we are kind of hacking away at ourselves in a judgmental kind of way. Like we think something's wrong with us. We're kind of overly vigilant, speculating on what's wrong with us. And so we're bringing that sort of hard-edged, judgmental energy to ourselves. Which if you're bringing whatever energy you're bringing with the mind, especially, it will see whatever it's looking for, right? So the reversal of this will suggest to me, like, how I release more blessing in my life is just not to block it with being so judgmental about myself, trying to trust that there is this natural genius in what I'm doing. It might not make logical sense. It often doesn't make logical sense, but like, there's a purpose to it. So helping the mind soften its work here. So I think if the queen is being very dedicated, she wants to do a good job. She wants to get you free. You know, she's doing what she knows to be helpful. But when she's reversed, it suggests to me she's operating kind of outside the bounds of wisdom or outside the support source of the intuition. So we want her to kind of get back in line and be responsive to the soul's reading and trusting of the genius of the intuition rather than being overly judgy or critical or vigilant. That's how I will read that. So we release the flood of blessing. We release the flood of challenge, which I think is a little more of a challenge. And that is death reversed. Okay, how might I see that? Okay, so I'll just start with death itself. Death shows the skeleton knight coming into the town. There's a fella who's got his crown dropped off his head. So people often think of death as being literally death, right? But really, death is the ending of something. In the tarot and in spiritual practices in general, death represents a mark, like the end of one thing, which opens to the beginning of something else. In the background, you can see there's this sunrise, right? So the idea here is that something's coming to an end, something new is starting. And this fellow with his crown off his head, to me, represents old authority. So there's an old authority, there's an old system of oppression telling us what we need to do. And death sort of shows up to release that, right? To get rid of the old ruler so that we can put ourselves in the position of authority. The new beginning is we become more authorized in our lives. So this came to us reversed. Okay. Yeah. So I would say the challenge, how I'd read this challenge, is kind of navigating what it means to have our own agency. I know that's a challenge for me. So that's why I'm speaking to it specifically, is that there is this kind of conversation, usually in the mind. It really is usually a mind conversation about how much do I show up as me? And is that always a good thing? Is that a bad thing sometimes? Is my energy too assertive? Am I pushing other people around? So I'll just speak for myself and most of my clients are assertive energies, which means we're here to make things happen on the planet. We're not really able to follow structures very well. We kind of don't do things the way everybody else does them, not because we're being rebellious necessarily, but because we're here to do something in a different, innovative way. And most of us get told early on that we are bossy or pushy or we're rebellious. Like we get criticized for that, right? So you begin to learn that you need to, tamp that down. You need to be responsive to others. You need to listen to others. And that's good. That's part of what it means of living in a social construct, right? But then you have to figure out the balance, right? The balance um, between compromise in a way that's helpful and socially makes sense, and how much the compromise actually results in you not being your full self. So the way I would read this is, I think the challenge for me is I probably need to take more seriously my own authority. I need to step into that in a clearer way. I need to challenge the line my mind has between what is like okay and what is too much, what is bossy, what is too, too much of me. I think that my mind probably has that line a lot closer than it should be to there's a lot more compromise than probably should be there. So those are my two opening the flow. And the third question would be, what's the blessing, or what's the inspiration that comes from those two being freed up? And I had the Three of Cups reversed, which the cups are about the heart and intuition. Three is about momentum. And the ladies are having a little, they're dancing together, having a little party. So I often think of this as a celebration of the heart, where people are, people are joining around you. They're affirming your heart. They're saying, yes, you're amazing. And that momentum is growing. The heart or the intuition is about connection, right? And about emotional fulfillment. And the heart kind of needs to be brought into the larger sphere through support, through love, right? So we do need someone to look at us and say, wow, you're amazing. The heart needs to receive that in order to get bigger in its expression, right? So the reversal to me often in this card often means that I'm feeling that within myself, like almost as though, yes, I recognize that my heart has something to say. It's really important. It's really beautiful. I'm getting more excited. The energy is building. So like there's this agreement to momentum. So the heart, so the barriers that keep your heart, contained in a safe space are sort of freed up, and the heart is free to go wherever it wants, kind of like the Knight of Cups. So that makes sense with the rest of the two cards, because one is about not being judgmental, the Queen of Swords, sort of going off duty, not being such a a judgy energy, and the other is Death reverse, which is about claiming who you really are, your own authority, and not compromising that. And so I think that makes sense to me. The combination of not judging, celebrating, which is the Three of Cups, as well as authorizing yourself, which is momentum. Now we're ready. We've got higher momentum. We believe in what we're doing. We're ready to go forward and make it happen. All right. That's how I would read my new moon spread, particularly, and you can certainly use that in any way you want. And we will see what else is showing up. Okay, Bonzo, that you already had yours pulled. Okay. First question is, how do we release the flow of blessing? Emperor reversed. So the Emperor is the good father energy of the court cards, of the major arcana. And I think of that as the very powerful masculine energy that creates a safe space in which we are free to be ourselves and grow and learn. So it's like the father creates the space for the children, make sure it's safe and protected, make sure you've got food and toys and all the things you need in it. So the child gets stronger and more vital and really kind of grows into who it is supposed to be. And so the Emperor is about creating spaces of caretaking for yourself. So the reversal might suggest looking at where you're not taking care of yourself, or where you're almost like you're prioritizing other people's needs over your own. Like maybe you need time alone, but instead of taking that time and sort of guarding it, like not letting someone take over, like valuing that, maybe you're kind of spending more time in the world or taking care of others or responding to other people's needs. It's okay to respond to people's needs. I'm not saying that's an issue, but if it goes opposed to what would actually take care of yourself, it really is. The father energy, the Emperor energy, is very much only about taking care of his own kids, right? That's his job. It's not to take care of your kids or worry about your stuff. It's to take care of his family and make sure his family is safe. So that very deep commitment, I think, is the masculine principle in spirituality, right? So it is like a development of that and recognizing there's a purpose for that. Now, all the major arcanas, all of the cards, like masculine spirituality, feminine spirituality, it's all about balance. Like that, you don't want to be all of one or all of the other. That's just not going to be functional. So it's not that this will be the only thing you do, but right now, maybe that's where the block is, around not sort of deeply prioritizing your own caretaking and making action steps. Because this is the masculine principle. It's about changing stuff around and making the adaptations you need to put that in place. So that would be like putting in the structures that keep you in a safe private space when you need to be. That may be one way of reading that first card. Second one was, how do you release the challenge? How do you release the flow of challenge? Five of Pentacles. I mean, five is the challenge card. So good pull in there. So the five is the challenge of the tarot. It's actually the midpoint in the 10 card trajectory. So I always think of it as like you're working your way up the mountain, right? And the five is the tip of the mountain. So that's the point that you're either going to meet the challenge and push yourself over the mountain and start gaining momentum on the other side, or you're not going to hit the gas and you're going to slide back down. That's what happens with a challenge point. Pentacles are connected to the physical realms. They're about jobs and money and physical wellness and vitality. And in the Rider-Waite, the Five of Pentacles is the two people walking in the snow, and they're impoverished. One has a crutch. I mean, it's a very heavy, sort of oppressive feeling. Like they're just they don't have much resource and they're just struggling forward. So it feels really like a challenge. But to me, the real challenge of the card is represented by, in the background, you've got a stained glass window, which is the church, right? And so in the medieval world, which is when the Rider-Waite was developed, was responsive to the medieval world, right? The church was a place of refuge and sanctuary. So these two people are sort of focused on making it through, struggling past, and there's this church in the background. So the challenge is whether they can sort of broaden their gaze enough to realize that they don't have to push forward. They don't have to just use their own grit to get forward. There is this sort of universal response of love and kindness. So the way I would see this in this question is, where are you just sort of in the grind? You're grinding too hard. You're looking at your own feet. You're focusing on your own resource or what you can do by yourself. And so you're missing the love and the support that's around you. So the challenge would be, interestingly, especially connecting it to the first card, the challenge to me would be like, can you let go of the grind? Which is actually, that might sound like a good thing, but especially if the mind thinks the grind is keeping you alive, which is definitely what's happening in this picture, right? These two people probably think all they can count on is their own self-determination to keep going, right? So you're gonna want to dig further into that. If that's what's keeping you alive, you're not going to want to relax it. But in this case, the challenge would be, can you relax it? Can you like step out of that grind, and kind of take on the challenge of the mind being nervous and scared and what's going to happen next? Can you walk into that discomfort to make room for this kind of universal in-breaking of grace and possibility? That may be one way of reading that. And last is Seven of Wands reversed. Oh, I like this in response to the other two cards, because the Seven's about making a choice, like feeling in your choice. Wands is about passion and inspiration and feeling confident. And in the Rider-Waite, it's the guy standing his ground, right? He's got a wand. He's like, yes, I've made my choice. I've chosen my passion. I'm ready to defend it. But that posture of defense, I think, can be a challenge, because basically it's like we expect almost to get clobbered because we've made a choice, right? So the reversal of the Seven of Wands, I'm sure many of you heard me say this before, I think is a release of that gravity. I've made my choice. I'm really excited about my choice, and I expect to be supported in it, right? So if you look at the Emperor reversed, which is the idea of like really deeply valuing yourself, prioritizing yourself, giving yourself the support and love that you need. And then the Five of Pentacles, which invites the challenge of letting the universe support you. Then the Seven of Wands says, the reversal of the Seven of Wands says, and now I'm ready to really get the support I need. I expect to be supported. I expect to, as I'm following my passion, the universe to kind of collaborate with me and to make it even more joyful and more easeful. That'd be one way of reading that spread. All right. So Wildflower. Let's look at this one. Okay, so Ace of Swords reverse. First question. I got to go back and answer my questions again. First question is, how do we release the flow of blessing? So Ace of Swords is the beginning point. Swords is about the mind. So it would suggest, by its regular, that Ace is like planting this new thing. You've got an idea. You kind of say, yes, I'm open to that idea. Let's see what happens, right? And it plants in the soil, right? So the reversal of that in this case, I would say, means you've already planted it. Just let it germinate, right? Like sort of like trusting. And really, the one is an action step. The two is an integration step. That's how often you see it falling out in the spiritual journey. And I always think of the integration step. It is a resting step for us, but it's like that's the action step of the universe. Like it is now taking action on your behalf. So while we are resting, the universe is acting. So you planted the seed. The universe is now germinating the seed. So kind of agreeing to that, agreeing to your partner. The universe is your partner. It's helping you out. Don't, let yourself be served. Let yourself be partnered. So this idea of sort of going on break, having a coffee break, having a nap. So letting your mind rest and enjoy the fact that something is brewing, and it's going to be really fun when that seed pops and you suddenly see the plant, and then you'll get to act again. So allowing that flow of blessing, if that makes sense, for that Ace of Swords reversed. Second question is, how do we release the flow of challenge? Six of Pentacles reversed. Okay, let me think of that. I connect the number 6 to harmony and having integrity. Pentacles is about the physical realm, about things you can see and taste and touch, and money and jobs and that kind of thing. So the upright 6 of Pentacles to me is about the balance between receiving and giving, because the image is the rich person giving alms to two poor people. And I always like the idea that there's one person giving and two people receiving, right? And that's probably about the right energetic balance. Like, we should be receiving twice as much as we give in order to have sustainable energetic flow. Most of us are not very good at that. Okay. Most people I work with, and most people I work with are better at giving than at receiving, which means they're kind of always giving and receiving very poorly, or not much at all. So they end up getting burned out, because that's not a sustainable energetic flow. So the upright 6 of Pentacles, 6 of Pentacles, is about like having this flow. The reversal to me, especially as a challenge, avoiding challenge, would be kind of like what happened with Bonzo. It's like, how can you address the imbalance? And if you are a giver, you stop giving. Like, what's the challenge of, I'm not going to give anymore. I'm going to back off. I'm not going to offer this in the world anymore. And the reason that's a challenge is because the reason we are doing what we're doing is the mind thinks this is the key, right? Like, I'm giving in order to receive, to get money, or to be worthwhile. Whatever the mind values our current patterns, because it thinks it's helping us. So we are breaking a pattern, which is ultimately the challenge. And the mind's afraid of what happens next. What's the pain point that will result from that? So if you stop giving, maybe you'll suddenly feel like you're being selfish, and that pain, that fear of being selfish, will rise to the surface, and you'll have to like ride out that challenge, right? So that might be the invitation to the flow of the challenge. Inviting the challenge is, stop doing the things that feel comforting, which maybe is over giving, and let yourself be uncomfortable and see what comes to the surface from that. And then the final card for Wildflower was the World reverse. Ooh, okay. So that's the blessing. If we do these, if we open the flow of the blessings and the challenge, what's the inspiration? I keep using its inspiration. What's the inspiration that comes? So the World is the final card in the major arcana. It's the completion of the journey. And it's a really cool card in the Rider Waite, because it's the lady. She's naked and floating in a wreath. So there's a victorious wreath around her. Her nakedness implies that she's feeling good in her skin. She's floating, so she's magical. She's wrapped in purple. I mean, it's a really like triumphant image of sort of claiming your victory, saying, I did it, yay me, right? And I think it's also a moment where we can integrate the story. We give ourselves a chance to tell our story in the way that makes us the hero, which is how the mind should be telling our story, by the way. Okay. But the reversal of the World reversed, that I actually do like the World reversed, because I think it tells you, don't worry about let go of where we're going, let go of the destination, which to me is an invitation to be in the journey itself. The journey determines the destination. And when I say that, I mean the quality of the journey determines the quality of the destination. So if you have a plan to go somewhere, but you're striving and struggling to get there, then when you get there, you will still be in the experience. The getting there doesn't save you from the striving. It's a result. It just becomes striving too. Everything you carry with you becomes the destination. So instead of thinking, where am I going to get to, or worrying about it, where the mind goes, oh, but what is this going to accomplish? Those kind of questions where the mind says, what's our destination? Being able to say, whatever it is, wherever we're going, we want it to feel like this. We want it to feel easeful, fun, joyful, whatever it is we're working on as far as getting the flow in place. Wherever we're going, we want this to come with us. So letting go of the need to know where we're going, and instead focusing on the quality of this moment. The investment we're making right now creates where we're going. Maybe that's helpful for that. Okay. You're welcome, Bonzo. I'm definitely better at receiving. Oh, you're definitely better at receiving? Oh, that's good. Then maybe that's where, then maybe you need to give more, right? Actually, that's true. I mean, some people, so there's when I was in seminary, oh shoot, Niebuhr, was it Niebuhr? I don't think it was Niebuhr, but okay. So there was a theologian that made this whole discourse on the sin of pride, right? And it was a very big conversation in the church. Like, don't be pride. Pride was a big one, a big problem, right? Well, gosh, it wasn't Niebuhr. You don't care. You don't care where it came from. It was a theologian, right? So when I was in seminary, there was a feminist theologian, a female theologian, who wrote a feminist response to that. And she said, typically a women's sin was not the sin of pride, but the sin of hiding. And that really struck me. She was like, yeah, women have been told it's good to be meek and quiet and humble. So like they're hiding their gifts, which means, and actually, if you think about some of the discourse we have lately with like, masculinity and alpha males and all this stuff, right? That what they're saying is women need to receive, you need to receive, right? Well, this theologian would connect that to the sin of hiding, which is you're not showing up with all your gifts intact, which means you kind of come to the world from a position feeling kind of impoverished. I need to be taken care of. I'm sort of fragile and I'm delicate. By the way, that is true of feminine spirituality. So it's not saying there isn't this fragile, delicate part of ourselves that's sort of magical and needs protecting, but it's saying that there's also the masculine in place, which is the emperor, right? Which is the hierophant, which is these other masculine energies that's saying, yeah, but I'm a force to be reckoned with, right? So I don't know so you said you're definitely better at receiving. I don't know if you meant the other or not, but I think that it's true. If you're better at receiving than giving, which means you feel like you're able to let people care for you, but you're not able to show up with your gifts, that, at least according to this feminist theologian, is like the sin of hiding, which is not realizing what you bring to the table and not showing up with it. So actually, if you look at the major arcana, it's that moment between the emperor and the hierophant. The emperor is the caretaker, the father. The hierophant is the one that brings you into the marketplace. Okay, now you're strong, you're ready. Let's get you out there, bringing your gifts to the world. Again, the hierophant's a 5. It's the challenge point. It's the moment we shift between being a child and receiving and being an adult and giving. So anyway, that was my take off of that. Okay. Let's see. So Robert, you said you pulled a Celtic cross. Cool. Ari. So Ari pulled for the first card. What was the question? Oh, what frees up our blessing? You said 7 of Wands. Okay, that's interesting, right? Because the 7 of Wands reverse came up just a minute ago. 7 of Wands, 7's about choosing. It's about following your path, and Wands are about passion and confidence, inspiration. So this would say like maybe freeing up your blessing is saying, here I am. This is what I'm choosing. This is what I'm doing. I'm committed. I'm kind of all the way into that. So like if you discover that you are sort of hedging a little, like you have an idea, but sort of, or maybe you're even in the middle of doing this, because the 7 happens kind of late in the trajectory, but it is kind of like, it's like you built up to this point. Now you're like, okay, I'm all in, like no turning back. I'm not doubting myself anymore. Like I'm not going to question anymore. I've made my decision. And I think it is the point where you sort of instruct the mind. We're done having conversations about whether we're going to do this. Is this a good idea? Is this not a good idea? No more of that. We've made a choice. We're full in. We're going to kind of give all of our energy to that. So maybe that's what's being invited in this card showing up in response to this question. Okay. Second is Ace of Cups. Okay. So Ace of Cups was releasing the flow of challenge. So the Ace of Cups is such a lovely card, but I definitely see how it connects to challenge, because Ace again is about beginning something new. Cups are about the heart and connection. So it is about, like, I think of the Ace of Cups as the new thing you're starting. You're starting a new expansion of your ability to receive. So we were talking about that, right? Which means you're opening yourself up to greater vulnerability. The reason many of us are not great at receiving is because it does require us to be vulnerable. We're actually allowing energy in. Right? Giving is putting energy out. And that feels like we're in charge of that. That's an active role, right? That's the masculine principle. But receiving requires the feminine principle. There's a softness, there's a receptivity to that. And you have to feel safe to do that. There's a bit of danger in that. There's a bit of risk. And the mind, just in general, its general like strategy is don't take risks, right? So anytime we're asking ourselves to soften, to lower our guard, to receive more, that that is a challenge to the mind, especially if the mind remembers when we've been hurt. It's using stories to tell us, remember when we messed up and we let that person in or we let that thing happen. The mind is trying to prevent pain from happening. And pain is challenge, right? So I think this is interesting showing up in the challenge. Like, what is it? What are you holding tight to? And are you willing to relax that? Knowing that, yes, you not only can you get hurt, yes, you probably will get hurt. This is what it means to be alive on the planet. The only way, I don't even if you, so the only way you can avoid hurt is to not open up at all. But not opening up creates a different kind of hurt. Actually, not opening up creates suffering. So pain is part of the journey. If we can sort of make peace with it instead of fighting with it and saying and judging ourselves for it, just say, yeah, if I open my heart, even if nothing actually bad happens, like you don't even have to be betrayed or harmed. Just opening your heart at all. It's almost like a muscle you're opening. Just the expansion of muscle can be painful. So the question is, so when the mind says, but we might get hurt, being able to answer is the Ace of Cups, saying, we might get hurt, but we will also expand. We will also grow. There'll be more capacity for fulfillment. So like there's a risk, there's a risk and a gain, right? And the gain, it's convincing yourself that the gain is more impressive. It's worth the potential loss. In addition, the more you spend time with yourself on the journey, the more resilient you get, the more you begin to gain tools for how you release pain. There's ways to release pain. You can learn them. There's ways to do it. I work with my clients all the time. So pain does not have to be once you get hurt one time, it doesn't have to be a permanent resident. But if you never expand at all, then you get cramped up. That does become sometimes a pattern in a way of life. So anyway, that was the Ace of Cups. Let's see. And the final, the Eight of Cups. Oh my gosh. So the blessing that opens up. Wow. The 8 is about flow and mastery, right? Cups is about the heart, intuition, and connecting with others. So the 8 is like in the Rider-Waite is the guy leaving behind his treasures and going into the wilderness. He's walking in the dark, which means he can't see where he's going, but he's walking with power and confidence because he's trusting his heart. He's following his intuition. It's called the spiritual seeking card. So it's like now we're in a flow, we're in power. We know what we're doing. We're very confident. We can hear the call of our intuition, and we are leaving everything behind to find that. Not only are we seeking it, we know we can find it, right? There's that confidence in that. So if you look at the combination of like the 7 of Wands, which is make your stand, choose your, get your mind on board, no more arguments. We've made our choice. We're following our passion. With the Ace of Cups, like let yourself receive, let yourself be supported, like, kind of open up the closet of your heart. Then you get the inspiration of the 8 of Cups, which is now we're on a journey. We're going to find the treasure hidden in the wilderness. That's kind of cool. Okay, let's see. And so Wildflower says, wow, it makes so much sense. Oh, good. I'm glad that made sense for you. The sin of hiding. Yes. That really spoke to me because I was raised in a Southern Baptist congregation, right? So, and when I was little, and probably still true in a lot of Southern Baptist congregations, I remember telling my parents that I thought I should become a minister, right? And I was told in no uncertain terms, no, women don't do that, right? And I was little, so I was like, oh, okay. I didn't really argue. I just agreed, right? And so I kind of grew up being told I was very, very bad at being meek. I can tell you, I was very bad at, and I'm also from Alabama, so I'm very bad at being a nice, meek Southern lady. I don't know any meek Southern ladies. Let's just be fair. I've never met any Southern ladies in my family or in my community that were not pretty powerful women. But the theory is that you're supposed to be meek, right? You're supposed to be docile and sort of submissive and all this stuff. So even if you do have powers and gifts, you're definitely not supposed to admit it or not own it all the way, right? Because you don't want to upset other people, you don't want to scare other people, you don't want to, I don't know, upset men. I don't know what the theory is, right? You're supposed to play it small, right? And so when I read this article of the sin of hiding, I was like, oh, I know this woman. I am this woman. So it really spoke to me. And I feel like my whole life is sort of a navigation of kind of pushing against the sin of hiding. So anyway, hi, Moon. let's say art stuff and La La Land, Mother Peace Tarot deck. Oh, so you have the Mother Peace. So I'm not familiar with that one. So let's look. Priestess of Wands. Maybe it's the Queen of Wands. Would that fit in with the Queen of Wands? I'm going to say it is. So, okay. So in answer to this spread, right? The first is, how do you release the flow of blessing? Queen of Wands. Okay, I love, if this is the Queen of Wands, in the Rider-Waite, she's the one sitting on the throne with the sunflower, and she's got a little black cat in front of her. So I think of Wands as being passion, energy, confidence. The mother and the Queen is the expansive principles. She's like, I think of her as the light on the hill. She's full of warmth, passion, and light, and people are drawn to her. She's very like visible and very, very exciting to be around. So people want to be around her because she's sort of, where she is, there is light, there is warmth, right? So in answer to this question, then, how do you release the flow of blessing? I would say, my first instinct is to say, become more visible. Let your light be seen in the world. So if you discover you're kind of keeping things quiet or hiding it, if you're committing the sin of hiding, this would call you out of that. Like, what is the thing that you feel like you really want to do, but there's some trepidation because you're trying not to be seen all the way? What would it need? Like, let yourself be seen. And I think that when you let yourself be seen, you are seen, and then the flow of blessing can reach you. If you're blocking yourself, you're also blocking blessing because they're connected. So that would make sense to me in answer to this question. Let's see. The second question is, how can you invite the challenge, invite the flow of challenge? I should write my questions down, right? Anyway, the flow of challenge, that's what it was. Two of Cups. That's cool because the 2 is the germination card. It's the kind of the getting your rooting in card. Cups is about the heart, right? And the image in the Rider-Waite is 2 people coming together, having communion together. That's what I think of. So it's the sharing of your heart, letting your heart be seen and loved and shared. So even though it's a 2 card, which means it's germination, there isn't really an action step. For the heart, for the cup, the German, everything is about connection. In the cup trajectory, everything is about being seen, being loved, feeling connected, right? So the 2 of Cups is the invitation to very intimate connection, whether that's romantic or not, it doesn't matter. But that idea of like really letting your heart be seen. And as we've been saying, the challenge of that, of course, is it's being vulnerable. It's really like trusting somebody else to see your heart naked. And letting your heart be loved for what it is. And the reason that's the 2 card, 2 is about germination and rooting. It's like that. It's almost like the heart's getting its roots in the world. Without that loving kind of partnership, the heart can't get its roots in the world, which means it can't go forward and be more expressive. So that need for a partner, for a soulmate, whatever that looks like, is really, but it's also very challenging because that, of course, we're afraid of getting rejected, getting hurt, getting betrayed. All the reasons the mind would stop us from doing that. That's why it's a challenge, I think, in this case. And the last question is, what is the blessing what is the inspiration that comes from these 2 flows being released? And that's the 5 of Swords. That is interesting because the 5 of Swords is actually another challenge because the 5 is challenge and Swords is the mind. I love the 5 of Swords because I think it's such an amazing invitation, to mastery for the mind. So in the Rider-Waite, it's basically a guy on the seashore going, yeah, he's smirking because he's got several swords around him, and it's like he's been dueling people and winning their swords, right? So he's pretty impressed with himself. And so you might think it's about victory, but the sky above is cloudy, and everything in the Rider-Waite tarot is deliberate. So a cloudy sky means, this is sort of troubled scene. So even though he's winning, these are hollow victories. And so the idea is that the mind sort of, it's the instinct the mind has to sort of fight it out, prove it's right, push its point, that kind of thing. That debate, I'm going to debate, right? In that same card, though, you got 2 people walking away. Right? They leave their swords on the ground and they walk away. And I think of that as winning the challenge, which means your mind recognizes that this whole debate, struggle, convincing debate, defending itself, proving you're wrong, proving it's right, is all fruitless because it's just a practice of insecurity. The only reason the mind does that is because it doesn't feel confident and it wants to prove itself by besting somebody else, right? Or proving itself to somebody else. So a mind that when a mind recognizes that this is kind of a waste of energy and time and resource, and it can just walk away, is a mind that now belongs to you. It doesn't belong to these hooks and these challenges, these conflicts other people are creating. It belongs to you. So I love the idea of the combination of the Queen of Wands, which is I show up as me, I'm in flow, I'm in my place. The Two of Cups is I shared this with somebody else. I let myself be loved. And the mind going, oh, we've got all this flow. We're really kind of amazing. We are loved deeply. I don't got to prove myself or talk to this other person. I can just walk away from that and save my energy for actually serving my purpose on the planet. So I like the way that works out, right? I think it's kind of a fun working out of that spread. So Wildflower says, after getting through a heartbreak and transmuting the pain, you feel stronger. Yeah, because after any kind of relationship, relationships expand us, right? They always expand us. They can also cause pain, but the pain, as you're saying, can be transmuted. And once it is, you're just left with the expansion. So if that's even if you're able to transmute the pain, which is part of the journey of a human life, right? Like in the beginning, the mind, we don't know how to transmute pain, so we carry it for a long time. But once you get to a point in your life where you figure out how to do that, right? You figure out how to transmute pain, and you show your mind, hey, pain doesn't have to be permanent. Then you can also show your mind, look at the benefits of this. This relationship taught me, it expanded me, it brought me to a new place. It was a challenge, right? It was a challenge point that sort of broke up new spaces for me. And now the pain is gone. All we've got is advantage. So that's a nice story to show the mind. So the mind becomes less scared of pain. I mean, the mind's never not going to be somewhat scared of pain. We can't ask that, but the mind can be more logical about weighing the cost. Well, yeah, this could be painful, but look at the expansion that's possible. And the mind will be more on board with moving forward. So anyway, let's see. Ari says, thank you. Oh, good. I'm glad that makes sense to you. Jenny. Okay. So you've got a spread here. Let's see. Okay, I'm sorry. I just read another. I'll come back to you, Jenny. I didn't mean to. Okay, so the first question is, how do we release the flow of blessing? That's the Tower. Interesting, because the Tower in the Rider-Waite shows like a lightning bolt hitting the Tower. The lightning bolt represents a moment of insight. The Tower falls apart, and these two people are falling out of the Tower. So it looks like it's going to be kind of painful because they're going head down to the ground. So it is going to be like a hard land for them. But the idea behind the Tower, I think, is that a structure is falling apart. And it's falling apart because the way I read the Tower, it's because it's too small for you now. It's a structure that maybe supported you, gave you some stability, but now you're too big for it. It falls apart and releases you to go forward. So there's this idea of expansion, and so maybe the Tower to me is a passive card. Like it's going to happen regardless. We don't usually make the Tower fall, but the idea is kind of like, trusting the Tower to fall. So that may be the answer in this, is there maybe something's falling apart, and sort of like open yourself to the blessing of like agreeing to that. It's for the good. You're too big for this now. Like kind of, and I think that's really is kind of reassuring the mind. Like things aren't falling apart, things are breaking open. So like it is kind of difficult. It can be painful and it can be disorienting. So like we want to be very gentle and loving. Like, yeah, it's hard when things fall apart. And it's definitely hard for the mind, because the mind usually relies on structure to feel safe in the world. So we don't want to dismiss the fact that it's a big challenge, but we want to kind of embrace the challenge. So what can we do to embrace the Tower? How can we take care of ourselves, be loving to ourselves, reassure the mind, and sort of feel what is being offered to us? Maybe that's one way of thinking and engaging the Tower. Let's see. And the second question was, how can we open the flow of challenge with Seven of Swords and Knight of Wands reversed? Okay. I'm just going to do one. Because let's just do Seven of Swords, just because that's the one that's here. Okay, so the 7 is about making a choice, discernment, and feeling wise in your choices. Swords is the mind. And the image in the Rider-Waite is the fellow sneaking around the military encampment, and he's picking up swords, choosing the ones he wants. And the idea there is like the mind sort of discerning, as is true for the 7, discerning what tools are going to work for you and which ones aren't, right? So it's like the mind really kind of practicing its mastery. Well, we're here to do this. This mindset doesn't work. We're going to throw that out, right? So it's a very positive energy for the mind. The way it could be a challenge, though, is I just said before with the Tower, right? Like the mind does rely on structure to make itself feel to kind of create a sense of meaning and understanding. So throwing out mindsets is throwing out structure. So it can be hard for the mind to let go of things like, well, this is something that, and also I think there can be some grief around it. I definitely know there have been times in my life where I did throw out a mindset and I grieved it. Like I felt the loss of it. And so like realizing that these, even though we can be very logical, the mind is pretty logical. And I think the mind, given the task of getting rid of the mindsets that don't match, the mind will be able to do it. But again, kind of like the tower, we want to say, but it does open up kind of this challenge point of we're losing pieces of structure that we might have actually identified as pieces of ourselves. It can actually feel like we're losing pieces of ourselves. So kind of like helping the mind. It's the same thing, helping the mind feel like it's okay to hurt. It's okay that we're attached. It's okay to release the attachment, but feel the loss. So that feels like that actually matches sort of the tower energy as well. Let's see. And the Knight of Wands reversed, which is, I'll do the Knight of Wands reverse. The Knight is the action taker. Wands is about passion and energy. The Knight of Wands is like the energy take is the action taker with energy, right? Like passion and the reversal to me. Okay, the reversal to me is like, yeah, don't take action right now. Like just be still for a while. And that actually makes sense with the Seven of Swords. Like sometimes we use action to feel comforting. Like we're feeling kind of bad, but we push past it and we do something where we engage, right? That can be a good thing. But here I think it might be saying, just feel the loss, feel the sorrow, feel the like agree to the pain that happens when we lose structure like the tower and we let go of old mindsets because they came to us at a time in our lives. Maybe they came to us from someone who loved us. Maybe it's something place that we did have love and we did feel connected to, and the release of that could be pretty painful. So instead of kind of jumping past it into action, like being still and letting yourself feel that. And the King of Cups reverse. So the last question is, and what's the inspiration that shows up as a result of this? So the King is the master energy. Once again, Cups is about intuition and connection. And the King of Cups is the energy that stays stable. His throne is actually on a rocky sea, but his throne stays stable. So even there's turmoil and craziness around him, he is like the center point of confidence and clarity. And so the King of Cups is sort of like the deeply hospitable energy that says, yes, bring me your turmoil, bring me your crazy. It doesn't matter. I'm going to love it and kind of hold it gently and bring it to a place of stillness and healing, and also a place of wisdom. So the reversal of the King of Cups here is sort of like, I think the internalization of that king, like realizing this mastery is yours. So as you think about the tower at Seven of Swords, all this sort of shifting and changing where the mind might be in real distress, if you let that happen, if you kind of engage your compassion and your kindness and self-care during that, then you discover there's this powerful king that you have access to, this powerful mastery that can always find the stable ground again, no matter how crazy things feel on the outside. Okay, so unraveling Rua. What's the name of the article? I think it's the sin of hiding. If you just do a Google search sin of hiding, you'll probably find it. I'm sure it's a pretty just do the sin of hiding. It is Niebuhr. I'm pretty sure it's Niebuhr that wrote the Sin of Pride. If you want to read Niebuhr's a little tough to read, but you can if you want. But I think just look up the sin of hiding, and I hopefully you'll find it. And if I get a chance, I might also I'll Google it, see if I can find it. I might put it as a link if I can find it as a link. Okay. Let's see. So Moon said, oh my goodness, there's like 3 more spreads or 4. Moon said, okay, pulled 5 of Swords. Okay. So the first was, how do you release the flow of blessing? 5 of Swords is the mind meeting the challenge. Like, as I said before, we talked about the 5 of Swords as the guy kind of taunting you, trying to get you to fight, and the mind going, no, I'm not going to do that. So how I'd read it here is like helping your mind disengage from the nonsense, just disengage from the nonsense. It has there's no reality to it. There's no fruit in it. There's no reason to engage it. So as your mind lets go of getting kind of caught and snagged in other people's desire to create drama, you don't lose energy there, right? You kind of are able to bypass it, and you're available to blessing. You're available to more flow because you're not getting kind of yanked out of your path by other people's drama. So that's one way to read that. Let's see. And how do you open the pathway to challenge? Moon reversed. Okay. So the moon is the moon card shows up when there's a part of ourselves that's sort of asking to be resurrected, right? It's been buried, it's sort of in the darkness, but the moon is there. There's some shadows, there's some light. The idea is sort of bring the part of ourselves that's been in shadows into the light of our love and kind of reconnect, resurrecting it and reconnecting it to our to ourselves. So the moon reversed. Let me think about how that could open up to the challenge. Okay, let me offer that. This is a little bit, well, not, I'm going to go with this interpretation of the reversal. So the moon card is great. I love it. But what it can do is get us stuck in this sort of cycle of sort of introspection and looking for what's wrong with ourselves. And a lot of people who are like very spiritually sort of like motivated will get a little bit trapped in this idea that I'm broken and I need to do this, I need to do that. Okay. The card after the moon is the sun, right? So in this case, the reversal of the moon to me is like, and step into the sun. So, which sounds like it's a good thing. I think it is a good thing. The sun's great. It invites us to be alive, to be in vitality, but it also invites us to move out of shadow into light, which is a challenge, right? Because the moon is sort of introspective. It's sort of private. It's a private energy. I'm going to stay at home and just ruminate and, whatever I'm going to do. The sun's like, I'm in the world. I'm alive. I'm in the Rider-Waite, the sun card has a naked baby riding a horse. I am naked. I am innocent. I am riding a horse. I'm taking action. This idea of sort of being free in the world, which I think can feel a lot better than the moon sometimes because it's this release of energy, but it can also be very visible and can feel vulnerable for that reason. So I could see that as that invitation as being like, it can be challenging, especially if the mind takes consolation in sort of feeling hidden and private, sort of getting into the world in a public way. That's how I'm going to read the moon reverse right now. And then let's see, the last one was Eight of Swords. Eight of Swords. So that was, and what, oh my goodness, that's a good one. So what is the inspiration that comes from these flows being established? Eight is about power, confidence, and mastery. Swords is the mind. The image in the Rider-Waite is the woman who's sort of tied up. She's bound up in this swath of cloth. She's blindfolded. She's in a cage of swords. Looks like she's very disempowered, but this is the 8 card. So it can't be about disempowerment. It's about empowerment. So if you look at it more closely, you realize that she's not bound very tightly. And if she just wiggles a little, the bonds will fall away. And then she can take her blindfold off and she can see. So the truth of the card is the mind thinks it is stuck. But when the mind realizes it's not stuck, if it chooses to be flexible, if it chooses to wiggle around, it will get itself free and it can claim mastery. The mind begins to realize that the things that feel like it's trapping it are all its own creation. And once it knows that, it knows it can uncreate any of these structures that are keeping it caught. So that actually makes sense to me as far as the 5 of Swords, right? That's the mind meeting the challenge properly and kind of stepping back from stuff. The moon reverse, which as I've read it, is about getting into the world, like getting free. You don't have to be small. You don't have to be hidden. Get into the world. And the mind realizing, oh, the only thing trapping myself was me, which means if I decide not to just free myself up, I have the mastery to do it. So I kind of like the way that one plays out. Okay, let's see. So Sebastian, the first one was Emperor. I think we pulled him, maybe it was Emperor reversed. Okay, so the first question is, how do you free yourself up for blessing? Emperor is that good father energy that's all about taking care of yourself, right? It's about putting in place the private spaces, not the public space, a private space that just belongs to you, where everything is about taking care of you. It's like the father taking care of the children. The house is there to protect the children, to make them feel safe. It's got food, it's got toys, it's got places to play, it's got private spaces, anything children need to feel safe and to grow and get strong. That's what the Emperor provides. So I think this is an invitation to say, like, yeah, where maybe revisiting your structures. Where are structures not in place? Where do you got to put a gate up? Where do you have to lock someone out, right? Because this space belongs only to the children, and the people are the energies that serve the children's purpose. So that may be an invitation to just look at, like where is the flow in from you? The love you give to yourself is also the flow, and really making that a priority and a commitment. Okay. 4 of Swords, next one. Okay. 4 of Swords. That's what challenges. Okay. That's interesting. So how can we open the flow of challenge? 4 is about balance. It's about stability, and swords is about the mind. And the image in the Rider Waite is actually a knight in a crypt, so he's dead. It's pretty calm, pretty stable. It's a very stable energy. It's very quiet. So it's kind of like the mind is feeling kind of balanced, understanding it. It feels like it understands what it's doing. It feels rooted and grounded. So that's the mind feeling pretty comfortable. So okay, so yeah, 4 of Swords in opening up challenge. Next was King of Swords reversed. Okay, let me offer this. This might sound a little weird, but it makes sense to me. So we'll see if it makes sense to you. My mind is used to being disrupted a lot. My mind kind of expects there to be challenge and struggle and drama. And also my mind expects there to not be much stability. So so actually instability is sort of stability for my mind. When things are sort of calm, my mind gets a little confused, almost like it doesn't quite know what to do with it. So I'm wondering if you have a very active mind that's very engaged and very talking all the time. My mind talks constantly to me. And almost like it, even if things are fine, the mind's still trying to create some kind of like struggle because it expects struggle. The challenge may be helping the mind like not struggle. Like, let's just be peaceful. Let's just enjoy where we are. And although that can be really nice, if the mind's not familiar with that, it is uncomfortable and it can actually be a little bit scary and painful. So, like helping your mind feel safe, feel loved, like actually everything's fine. There's nothing, we've got it. This is a beautiful day. We've got friends, we've got good food, we've got a safe place. And again, that's Emperor, right? Like we got a nice, safe place. We're loved, we're safe, like helping the mind know, oh, really as well. We don't have to look for the struggle or find the struggle. If there is a struggle, it'll come to us, we'll solve it. But like helping the mind learn how to be safe and how to be loved. Um, and the reason I think it's interesting is in the blessing or the inspiration that comes from the flow is the King of Swords reversed, which is the King is master energy of the swords, right? The one that kind of is very confident and stable and very clear. Like his job is to strategize for us. So his job is like, what do you want to accomplish? Okay, let's come up with a plan to accomplish it, right? Very logical and very, very helpful to what we want to accomplish, right? So it feels like the King of Swords reversed is like the integration of that king. So almost like, why does the mind ever have to get too excited or too dramatic? Even if challenges happen, we've got this master energy. That would be like the learning or the inspiration that comes from this is like, I never have to get really that thrown because even if challenge comes, if it's coming my way, it must be that I know how to solve it. I will figure it out because I'm the master. The mind begins to agree to its own mastery and agrees to its own like being beloved on the planet and being safe. So yeah, that'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Let's see. Roberta, Robert, I'm sorry. Robert, I say it's not Roberta, it's Robert Bobby. So Bobby. Let's look at your spread. So first question is, how do we release flow of blessing in the world? 2 of Pentacles. Okay. 2 of Pentacles is, the guy balancing pentacles or juggling pentacles in the Rider Waite. So there's this fella, he's on the seashore. 2 is about germination and like rooting in. Pentacles is the physical realm. And so the guy is on the beach. He's doing a jig, dancing a jig while he juggles pentacles. And so the idea is like really I think it's about finding balance, finding the flow of balance, right? And he's also in front of a sea, and the sea in the tarot connects to intuition. So even though he's kind of doing a very physical activity, he's doing it with the backing of the intuition. And the idea, I think, is about finding the balance point, finding the physical balance point between resting and playing and working and being alone and being with other people, all of those things that sort of create the structures of our physical lives, right? That help us feel like our bodies are being supported in such a way that it is sustainable. So the 2 of Pentacles then would be like, yeah, where might there be imbalance? Like, are you working too hard? Are you alone too often? Are you alone too often? Infrequently, like the idea of sort of looking at where there might be imbalance and kind of opening yourself up to a place of balance, because so that there is more flow. Because really, whenever you have balance, whenever you create balance, whether that's physical balance or like emotional balance between receiving and giving, you're not just maintaining the status quo. Balance itself is expansive. So as you sort of take seriously addressing the imbalances, then you make room not only for your own balance to be restored, but there's a flow of energy that sort of comes in and increases it exponentially. So I think that might be something to look at. Where are you unbalanced in your physical energy? And how are you going to kind of bring balance back to allow more flow? Let's see. The second question is, how do you open the flow to challenge? Ace of Wands. Okay, that's interesting. So the ace is the beginning point, the seed of the tarot. Wands is about passion and confidence, inspiration, like it was very big energy, invigorating energy. So it's almost like you're planting the seed of passion, of something kind of coming alive in you. And so there could be a couple of reasons this could be challenging. One is that it really is hard just to plant a seed. I had someone recently in a tarot story be like, but what do you do when you plant a seed? You just plant a seed? Like, what do you do next? I'm like, well, then you wait, right? After you plant a seed, you wait. So it's a little unsatisfying sometimes to the mind to be like, but I just planted a seed. Now what do I do? Well, do something else because the seed has to germinate. So this idea of like, first, so that can be one reason it could be a challenge. Planting a seed means you are sort of entrusting something to the universe, right? Because the second one is your action, two is your integration point, and that's the action of the universe. And that means you're giving it to the universe for a while. You don't get a say right now. You don't know how long it's going to sit in the ground before it germinates and roots in. So that can be frustrating. Also, the Ace of Wands is sort of, you are saying yes to mystery. You don't really know how this is going to work out. If you say yes to this passion, it is saying yes to the unknown. So there's that combination of there's not much to do, but also you don't know what's going to happen next. So those can both be very challenging with the mind. And the mind, I think the mind with Ace steps tends to do one of two things. Either it'll ask too many questions. Well, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make money? How are we going to, which are all inappropriate questions when you're just planting a seed. Or it can say, I don't know, this looks kind of scary. What if something big happens from this and I'm not ready for it? I'm scared of this, and it will shut it down. Either way, there is a challenge the mind has to face in order to like agree to this. So I think you've got one thing is that balance, and then the Ace of Swords, the Ace of Wands, which is sort of like potentially creating a whole different place of expansion and growth. I think they actually go together because the Two of Pentacles is sort of like there is this balance that allows for bigger flow, which means now you can serve a bigger passion. So like they're connected. So it's funny how I know there have been times in my life where I actually opted for like things that would blow off that would waste my energy so that I wouldn't have to figure out what to do with that energy. like, okay, I've got this much energy. If it gets bigger, what am I going to do with all that energy? Well, I better figure out a way to sort of burn the energy so I don't have to figure that out. So it doesn't seem like it maybe doesn't sound like it makes sense that that'd be a challenge, but I think it really is. It is for me. And the outcome was, what was the other one? Oh, wait, I lost it. Outcome of Five of Cups. Okay. That's interesting. So the Five of Cups. So that's the blessing card, or the inspiration card that comes when both of these flows are open, the flow of blessing and the flow of challenge. And it was the Five of Cups. Okay, I love the Five of Cups. I love all of them, but the five is the challenge and cups is the heart, the intuition. And the image in the Rider-Waite is the fella looking back at a house that he's been kicked out of, right? He's left that home where he didn't get kicked out, but he's left this behind. So he's in a position of grief and loss and mourning. And that you also mentioned the tower. So I'm not sure what but the tower is also a law. There's a loss of structure, a loss of something that maybe was valuable to you. And the Five of Cups, it's like your heart is still longing for this connection or this place you used to live in. So the challenge of the Five of Cups is learning how to recognize the loss, like saying yes and cry for it, weep for it, mourn for it, and finish your loss, and then release it so you can turn your attention to the rest of the journey. In the image of the Rider-Waite, you've got three cups that are upturned in front of the man, which is kind of like that represents the loss. There's two upright cups behind him, which says to me that yes, we have this loss is real. And so part of the challenge of the Five of Cups is admitting the loss. So I mentioned before that most of us, all of us when we're children, we don't really know how to process pain. We just sort of move past it, right? So that is a typical strategy of the mind. Like, I have pain, I don't know what to do with it. We're just going to wall it off and move on, right? So there is something about the Five of Cups that says, yes, feel the pain, feel the loss, let it be true, because that's part of the work. Is like feeling the loss, completing the loss, and until you acknowledge it, you get stuck. Some part of you is stuck in that moment of loss, right? So it's agreeing, feeling the pain of it, breathing it out, releasing it, and then turning around and realizing there's blessing waiting for you. So I love that shows up, the Two of Pentacles and the Ace of Wands. It's like there are these sort of expansion and possibilities and things being planted, and the heart like releasing something. Like, okay, we're done with this part of the story. That was part of the story. It's definitely, we're not going to ignore it or pretend it didn't happen. We are going to finish it and move on. So anyway, let's see. I think that's that's all I see, all the spreads I see. So Jenny said, thank you so much. I'm glad it feels like going into this winter and letting things unravel naturally. That's true. And art stuff. You're going through a breakup. Yeah. Keeping to myself a lot, getting back out there in the world and connect with others. So I think this is a nice affirmation that, it's interesting how, especially when we go through any kind of contraction, I don't know that a breakup's a contraction, but there is a time of self-care where it's private, right? You spend time privately. It's very, very necessary. It's like the Five of Cups. It is necessary to mourn, but there is a moment where you release it. And I think it's tricky sometimes to catch that moment. We end up overstaying, right, in the feeling of privacy, and but happily, like, eventually it drives us nuts, and we finally. But I think the more we pay attention to that shift, the easier it comes as we recognize it quicker. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so. Okay, it says, are online tarot generator draws as useful as physical cards? I don't know. I mean, I think Bonzo asked that question. Are the online tarot generator draws as useful as physical cards? I mean, I don't know. I think of the tarot as being a source of inspiration from your own soul. I think your soul will use whatever tools you give it. So I think you can use tea leaves. I think you can use a scrying mirror. I think anything you use where you are trying to connect with your soul and your own wisdom, the universe and your soul will use whatever you want. So if that could be an online tarot, I think anything you use that you kind of allow to access your inner wisdom is going to serve you in some way. That's what I would say. So, all right. Well, hopefully I'll be back in 2 weeks and we'll do the Beaver full moon together. Until then, y'all have a great couple weeks. Bye.